Good morning. Welcome to week 2 of distance learning. Wish I could see all you in person, but for now, I will give you a little rundown of this week and what to expect. So, this week, our assignment is due, and it's due by the end of the week, March 27th. And I was reading some of the responses that you came up with for the remote learning survey. So thank you for those of you who responded. And a lot of you mentioned like maybe it'd be helpful to get like a weekly schedule. So I kind of created one for this week. I know some of you are working at your own pace, and I think that some of you commented that you like doing that. So I think what I'll do is I'll post a suggested weekly, daily schedule, and like especially for those of you who are falling behind, then you should be following this daily schedule. Otherwise, if you know that you have your routine down, then you could feel free to continue doing whatever is working best for you. So for this weekly schedule, it's really important to remember that the I Want That text, as I mentioned, it's due on Friday, March 27th. And this last week, you should have already started on that. So hopefully by now, you've already done the remote learning survey, because I did say that that's going to be part of your grade. So I will start adding that to your grade book by Wednesday probably. And then you should have already done the first read with unknown words, created questions, and created synthesis statements. So if you have not done that already, then you are on catch-up mode, making sure that you have all those steps completed. Okay. Here's my suggested schedule. So today the task is to reread the text and make 4 connections for the second read. So let me show you that a little bit. What that can mean is, if you have already started your first read, remember that you have access to all the tools, so you can look up unknown words and really try to get a good understanding. So as you can see here, for the word austere, I looked it up on the dictionary.com. So I highlighted it under tools, I clicked dictionary, and then it gave me the word here, austere. So I added the definition where it says severe or strict manner. And then you should have already done your synthesis statements and your question. So for example, my synthesis statements for lines 1 through 20 was, some people are trying to reclaim a life with fewer possessions. And my question was, what does it mean when it says the standard of life is determined not so much by what a man has to enjoy, but by the rapidity with which he tries as any one pleasure? Wrote Simon Patten, the pioneering economist philosopher of consumption in 1889. So I got that quote here on the left, and I just added it as my question because I was really trying to get understanding of what he was trying to say. So that step should already be done for your first read. And then for your second read, just anywhere in the text, you want to make sure that you're making the connections and the frames right here. So like you can say like, this reminds me of, tell me what, or I can relate to, any of these. And remember that you want a total of 4 throughout the whole text. So to give you an example, when I read this line, let me go down a little bit. So it says, in our age of careless abundance, austerity is a luxury available only to multimillionaires, the occasional monk, and the really smart shopper. So I'm going to make my connection here. I'm just going to change the color so it stands out. And I'm going to say like, the fact that it says the really smart shopper, that reminds me of like those TV shows that I see with like people who do like extreme couponing. So that's what I'm going to write. So this reminds me of people who are really good about finding great coupons. And not only that, but they're saying like people who don't really buy too much, right? So find really great coupons and only stick to what they really need. I'm noticing that it's kind of dragging down my other comments, so what I've had to do is make the font a little smaller sometimes, and you might have to like delete it to move it up if you need to. Okay, so as you can see now, I kind of just changed my colors. In purple I have my connection, in black I have my synthesis statement, and in blue I have my question. I didn't require that, but it just makes it helpful so that when I come back to study my text, I'll have it all ready to go. Okay, so if you look at the weekly schedule, that will cover today. Then it says for the for Tuesday and Wednesday, I broke up the task of answering the questions. So on Tuesday it says answer questions 1, 2, 3, and then Wednesday it says answer questions 4 through 5. So it's really broken up for you so you can take your time. And if you scroll down, we're really looking at answering these questions at the bottom. It says for question number 1, what does Hein say about society now? And since it tells you the lines specifically, just do a really good job of going back to those lines. I would scroll back up to lines 1 through 10, really see what he says, and then type in my answer here. Another assignment that I created was to make sure that you're choosing one of your questions from the first read and posting it onto the discussion board. So that assignment has already been posted, where it says please choose one of your unanswered questions from your first read and post it here. Then choose at least one classmate's question to respond to. This is due by Thursday, 5 p.m. So all that means is I have to go to my first read. So if I go back to my text, remember that I told you that for me, I made all of my questions blue. So I would just go through all of my questions, and really, I would pick one that I find the most interesting or the most confusing, because the goal is that someone else will read it and maybe will give me an answer that will be interesting to read. So I'm just going to copy this question I created. Then I'm going to add it as a class comment. So I added it as a class comment, and then I just have to post it from here. Okay, so I have a class comment. So those of you might see my question, you're welcome to answer it too. And then the goal is that you'll read someone else's question and you'll respond to at least one other person's question the best that you can by Thursday at 5 p.m. And then finally, we are going to have a quiz. So on Thursday, hopefully you're caught up with everything, and your only task is to study and look back through your notes. And then I am going to host an optional Zoom session at 2 p.m. to review. Some of you have said that you're having problems with Zoom, so if you're one of those, if you could just please email me or let me know, that way I could try to help you out. And some of you asked if we can have other ways of communicating besides Zoom, so I will be looking into maybe different ways. That's why I'm also creating these YouTube videos. But one option I had, or one thing I'm going to look into, is maybe even doing a YouTube live or something, so I'll look into that. But other than that, remember that the Zoom sessions are optional, and we are going to be looking at the discussion board questions, so that's why it's due by 5 p.m. that day, so that gives you time to look at that. Okay, and then on Friday, I'm going to post the quiz, so it is going to be available on Google Classroom, and it'll be due by Monday. I am going to make it so that you can only take it once, but you can use your notes, so just make sure you take your time. I think that's about it. So if you have any questions, if you would like to turn in any missing assignments, just make sure you're contacting me through Google Classroom. You can email me. Just make sure you're reaching out. I am going to be checking in with you more personally this week, especially if I see that maybe we're falling behind the work. So if you're worried about falling behind the work, just let me know, and we will come up with a plan. Okay? Other than that, let me know if anything else comes up, and I hope to talk to all of you soon.